The sunset game, the alien sun hung low in the sky, painting the sandy plains with gold and red. Ethan sat on one knee near his small campfire, adjusting the straps on a supply bag. He had spent the whole day mapping this strange planet, and now, all he wanted was some quiet before nightfall. But quiet never lasted long when she was around. From behind a cluster of thin, crystal-like trees, Liora appeared. She walked with that same graceful sway, her long silver hair catching the sunlight, her golden eyes sparkling as if she had just thought of a clever joke. She was an alien, not the strange, insect-like kind Ethan had met before, but something almost human in shape, only taller, sharper, and with an air of mystery that made people forget their words. "You look bored," she said, tilting her head. "I'm not bored," Ethan replied, checking the knots on his tent ropes. "You are bored," she teased, stepping closer. "Your face says it. Your shoulders say it. Even your shadow looks bored." Ethan sighed. "My shadow doesn't talk much." She smirked and crouched next to him, close enough for him to feel the faint heat radiating from her skin. "You humans are strange. You come to my world, carry all these tools, and yet you spend more time staring at dirt than at me." "That's because the dirt doesn't talk so much," he muttered. But there was a small smile tugging at his lips. Liora caught it instantly. "Ah, you smiled. Victory is mine." She was like that, playful, quick with words, always pushing him off balance. For the past few weeks, she had been his unexpected companion on these mapping trips. Ethan still didn't know why she followed him, but she always appeared near sunset. Today was no different, except for one thing. She seemed more intense. Her eyes lingered on him longer. Her steps were quicker, and there was a strange excitement in her voice. "What's going on with you?" he asked as he tightened the last strap. "Nothing." She picked up a small rock and tossed it in the air, catching it easily. "I just wanted to see you work one last time before tonight." "One last time?" he asked, frowning. "Are you leaving?" She shook her head, smiling faintly. "No, you'll see." At midnight, Ethan straightened, a little uneasy. "That's oddly specific." "Midnight is when all good stories begin," she said, her voice softer now, as if she was speaking more to herself than to him. He tried to read her expression, but she turned away, walking toward the edge of the ridge. The setting sun lit her silhouette, making her look like part of the horizon itself. He followed, curious despite himself. They stood side by side, the wind tugging gently at their clothes. Below them, the plains stretched endlessly, dotted with strange crystal plants that glimmered like frozen lightning. "You humans," she said suddenly, "don't know how to play the long games." "What's that supposed to mean?" Ethan asked. She glanced at him, a playful light back in her eyes. "It means I can keep you guessing for hours." She stepped closer, almost close enough to touch, then turned away at the last moment, walking toward the campfire. He exhaled slowly. She was definitely hiding something. The last light of the alien sun faded, the sky turning deep violet. Ethan worked on the fire, but his mind stayed on her words. "You'll see." At midnight, Liora sat across from him, roasting a small piece of fruit over the flames. She seemed calmer now, but every so often her gaze flicked to the stars above, and her jaw tightened. "All right," Ethan said finally. "Enough games. What happens at midnight?" She smiled faintly, but didn't answer. Instead, she tossed him the roasted fruit. "Eat. You'll need your strength." He caught it easily. "For what?" Her golden eyes met his. "For whatever comes when the moon is at its highest." The way she said it made the back of his neck prickle. The fire crackled between them. The night air grew colder, sharper. Somewhere far off, A low, strange hum echoed across the plains. Ethan looked toward the sound, but it faded as quickly as it came. When he turned back, Liora was watching him quietly, her playful mask slipping for just a moment. In her eyes, there was something else now. Not teasing, not curiosity, but fear. She looked away quickly. Almost time for the moon to rise, she whispered. Ethan leaned back, unsettled. He didn't know what game she was playing anymore. But he had the feeling that when midnight came, it wouldn't be a game at all. The wind shifted, carrying with it a scent he didn't recognize, metallic, sharp, and cold. Lyra's shoulders stiffened. "Stay close to me tonight," she said suddenly. "I thought I was supposed to be the one keeping you safe," he said with a half smile. She didn't smile back. Far above, the first pale light of the alien moon began to rise, casting a silver glow over the plains. Shadows stretched long and dark. The hum in the distance returned, louder this time. Ethan felt a chill that had nothing to do with the wind. And then Liora spoke again. Her voice barely above a whisper. "Don't ask questions. Just don't leave me. Not until sunrise." Silence before midnight. The alien moon climbed higher, silver light spilling over the plains like a slow tide. Ethan kept adding small branches to the fire, letting the flames fight against the cold air. Across from him, Liora sat perfectly still, her long fingers resting on her knees, her gaze fixed on the horizon. It was strange an hour ago. She had been teasing him, her voice bright and sharp. Now, it was as if someone had pressed a mute button. Even the air between them felt heavy. He tried to break the silence. "You're awfully quiet for someone who likes to talk about shadows and boredom." She didn't answer. Her golden eyes flicked toward him for a fraction of a second, then returned to the dark stretch of land ahead. "All right, what's wrong?" Ethan leaned forward. "You were fine before sunset. What happened?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "It's getting close." "What's getting close?" he asked. She didn't look at him. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, as if listening to something he couldn't hear. That's when Ethan noticed it. A faint hum, so low, it almost blended with the wind. He paused, thinking it was some part of the camp equipment vibrating. But the sound was coming from far off, somewhere deep in the plains. It pulsed slowly, almost like a heartbeat. Ethan frowned. "What is that?" "Don't listen to it," she said quickly, her voice sharp now. "It listens back." He blinked at her. "That doesn't make any. Just don't." The fire popped, sending a spray of sparks into the night. Liora didn't even flinch. She sat rigid, her breathing shallow, like a predator was already. In the camp, the wind picked up, carrying with it the same metallic scent Ethan had caught earlier. He turned his head toward the plains, scanning the darkness. He saw nothing, just endless, flat land under the glow of the moon. But the hum grew louder. "Liora," he said carefully, "if something's out there, I need to know what we're dealing with." Her jaw tightened. "Not yet. If I tell you now, you'll think you can fight it, and you can't." He stared at her. "I've fought worse." She shook her head, her voice a fragile thread. "Not this. Not when the moon is high." They sat in the crackling light for another long minute. Ethan's instincts screamed at him, every muscle in his body telling him danger was close. But Lyra's behavior was the real alarm. She wasn't just scared, she was resigned. "Do you trust me, Ethan?" she asked suddenly. The question caught him off guard. Yeah, I guess so." She turned her eyes to him then, and the gold in them looked dimmer under the moonlight. "Then stay close. Don't step outside the firelight, no matter what." You see, he felt the words settle in his gut like ice. "And if I do?" Her lips pressed into a thin line. "Then I'll lose you." Before he could respond, the hum shifted, becoming a slow, rhythmic thump. as though something heavy was walking across the plains. The sound was distant, but it was getting closer, steady, deliberate, each step a drumbeat in the night. Ethan's hand moved toward his rifle. Liora saw the motion and gave a quick shake of her head. Not yet. His voice was low. So I'm just supposed to sit here while yes, she cut in. If you run, it will chase. If you fight, it will. Never stop. Her gaze was locked on the horizon now. Ethan followed her eyes and saw nothing. Just the shimmering crystals swaying in the breeze. But there was a pressure in the air, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Another step. And another. The ground didn't shake, but the sound was everywhere, slipping under the skin. Worming into the bones, Ethan glanced at Liora. Her shoulders were trembling now. She hugged her arms to her body as if she were freezing, even though the fire's warmth was strong. "Liora, talk to me," he said quietly. Her voice cracked. "When midnight comes, I change, and they come for me." The way she said they made him want to reach for his weapon again, but the raw fear in her eyes made him stop. He wanted to ask who they were, but before he could, the sound stopped. The plains went silent. No wind, no hum. Nothing. Lyra's head tilted, her eyes going wide. "It's here." Ethan scanned the darkness, his finger tightening around his rifle's grip. "Where?" She didn't answer. She just stared into the shadows beyond the FIRELIGHT. Then, slowly, she reached across the fire and took his hand. Her grip was cold, trembling. "Promise me," she whispered, "you won't let go." Ethan looked at her for a long moment, then squeezed back, "I promise." For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the hum returned, louder, vibrating through the ground like a living thing. Something moved at the edge of the firelight too quick for him to see clearly, but big enough to block out the shimmering crystal plants. Ethan's pulse hammered in his ears. Lyra's nails dug into his palm. The sound circled them once. And then, somewhere in the darkness, a deep, inhuman voice whispered something Ethan couldn't understand. Liora flinched violently, her breathing ragged. "Don't answer it," she said quickly. "Not even in your mind." Swallowed hard. Realizing this wasn't just fear, this was survival. Midnight was still minutes away, but Ethan knew those minutes were about to feel like the longest of his life. The breaking point, the alien moon, hung directly above now, full and silver, flooding the plains with pale light. The shadows of the crystal trees stretched thin and long, pointing toward the camp like dark fingers. Ethan could feel the cold in his teeth, a biting chill that seemed to seep from the ground itself. Liora hadn't let go of his hand. Her grip had grown tighter and tighter, almost painful now. She was still staring into the darkness beyond the fire, her golden eyes wide and unblinking. The hum had changed again, deeper, slower, more like a growl than a vibration. Every so often, the sound would fade, only to appear again from a different direction, as if whatever was making it was circling them. Ethan's instincts screamed to raise his rifle, but Lyra's earlier words echoed in his head. "If you fight, it will never stop." He tried to keep his voice calm. "Liora, tell me what's happening to you." She turned to him slowly, and for the first time since he'd met her, the teasing, playful spark in her eyes was gone completely. "You've seen the moon before," she said quietly, "but you haven't seen what it does to me." Before he could answer, her body jerked, a sharp, sudden movement like she'd been hit by an invisible force. She gasped, clutching her stomach with her free hand. "Liora." He reached for her, but she doubled over, a pained sound escaping her lips. "It's starting," she whispered, her voice shaking. "I can't stop it." Her skin, pale gold under the firelight, began to shimmer faintly. It wasn't the glow of heat or sweat, it was something unnatural, light seeping out from under her skin in thin branching lines, like cracks in glass. The glow pulsed in time with the hum. Ethan's heart pounded. "Is this hurting you?" "Yes," she breathed, her voice breaking. "It's tearing me apart." The hum grew louder, vibrating through the air, making the fire's flames flicker sideways. Ethan looked around, scanning the darkness, and that's when he saw it. A figure. Far out, just beyond the crystal trees, barely more than a shadow. Against the silver-lit horizon, was tall, unnaturally tall, with limbs too long for its body. It didn't move like a living thing. It simply appeared in a new place whenever he blinked, like the night itself was carrying it closer. "Ethan?" Lyra's voice snapped his attention back to her. Her breathing was ragged now, her shoulders trembling. She tried to sit up straight, but her spine arched involuntarily, and she collapsed forward into his arms. Her skin was ice cold. The glowing cracks had spread, tracing up her neck and down her arms. The light inside them was shifting in color from pale gold to a sickly, greenish hue. He held her tighter. "Stay with me. Tell me what I can do." Her eyes fluttered open, but she didn't focus on him. Instead, she stared past him, toward the approaching shadow. "You can't fight it," she said again, her voice barely a whisper. "They come. For me, every full moon, and they always find me." The shadow stepped or appeared closer. Ethan could see more of it now. Its face was featureless except for two glowing slits where eyes should be. And its skin looked like the surface of the moon, cracked and shifting, lit from within. He felt Lyra shiver violently. "It's calling me," she said. "I can feel it in my bones." "Then ignore it," he said firmly, pulling her closer. "Stay here. Stay with me." She laughed weakly, but it wasn't a happy sound. "It doesn't matter if I stay. It will still take me." The hum stopped. For a moment, the silence was so complete, Ethan thought his ears had stopped working. Then the shadow stepped into the very edge of the firelight, and the flames bent toward it, as if being drawn in. Lyra gasped, her nails digging into his arm. Her glowing cracks flared brighter, and Ethan realized they were moving, shifting, under her skin like something alive. "What is it doing to you?" Key demanded. Her voice broke again. "It's breaking me down, piece by piece, until there's nothing left to hide." He felt a surge of panic. "Then I won't let it finish." Ignoring her protests, Ethan reached for his rifle. The moment his fingers closed around it, the shadow froze. For the first time, it tilted its head toward him, those glowing slits narrowing. Ethan Doan Lyra tried to sit up, but another wave of pain forced her back against him. Her whole body trembled now, her breath shallow. He kept the rifle low but ready. "If it touches you, it's going to regret it." The shadow took a step back, not out of fear, but as if toying with him, daring him to come closer. The hum returned, slower now, and each pulse made Lyra flinch as if struck. Her eyes were glassy when she looked up at him. "Midnight's here," she whispered, "and I'm already falling apart." In his arms, she felt lighter, not from comfort, but as if parts of her were slipping away into that strange light. And then she went completely limp. Ethan's stomach twisted. Lyra. No response, just the faint glow pulsing under her skin. He looked up, and the shadow was gone. The hum faded into the distance, leaving only the crackle of the fire and the sound of his own breathing. But the cold in the air told him it wasn't over. Midnight had only begun. The hidden curse the fire crackled softly, its orange glow trembling against the cold silver light of the alien moon. Ethan knelt beside Lyra, cradling her head in his lap. Her skin still glowed faintly in those strange, vein-like patterns, but her eyes were closed. Her breathing shallow and uneven. "Come on, Lyra, stay with me," he murmured, brushing a strand of silver hair from her face. Her eyelids fluttered. And for a moment, her golden eyes peeked open. They were duller now, the bright warmth replaced with something almost glassy. She gave a weak smile. Still here. For now. Ethan's relief was short-lived. What happened to you? Her gaze shifted to the moon above. It's my blood. My people were born under two suns, not this cold silver thing. When the full moon rises on this planet, it pulls at us, drags the strength right out of our bodies. It's a sickness we can't cure, and a signal they've learned to follow. They, Ethan pressed, though he already knew she meant whatever shadowed thing had stalked them. Lyra's lips trembled before she spoke. Hunters, not like any creature you've met. They smell weakness, feel it, and they don't stop until they've taken what they want. What do they want? She hesitated, her fingers curling against his arm. They take our light. Ethan frowned. Your light? The glow you see, she whispered, is life itself for my kind. They drain it, feed on it, and when it's gone, so are we. The words hit him like a punch. He glanced at the glowing lines under her skin, noticing how some of them seemed dimmer than before. How many times has this happened to you? She looked away. Too many. I've run from them my whole life. I never stay anywhere long enough for someone to notice. But tonight, her voice cracked. I didn't want to be alone when it happened. Ethan's chest tightened. So all her teasing earlier. The games at sunset, that had been her way of distracting herself from the fear creeping closer with every passing minute. You should have told me, he said quietly. Her weak smile returned. And you would have done what? Stayed anyway? Or run? Stayed, Ethan said, without hesitation. Her eyes softened, and for a moment, some of the tension left her face. But then, a sound split the stillness. A slow, dragging scrape from somewhere beyond the FIRELIGHT. Ethan froze. Lyra's fingers dug into his sleeve. They're closer, she breathed. The scrape was followed by another, then another. Like claws raking the crystal plants as something circled them. The hum returned. Low at first, then rising in pitch until it felt like it was pressing against his eardrums. Ethan's jaw tightened. If they feed on your light, they're not getting anywhere near you. He gently set her down and reached for his rifle. Lyra tried to stop him. Don't fight them head on. They'll mark you. Once they mark you, they'll never stop chasing. Good, Ethan said grimly. Let them try. Before she could argue, the shadow stepped back into view, taller this time. Its glowing slitseys fixed on Lyra. But it wasn't alone. Two more emerged from opposite sides of the camp, their bodies shifting like liquid shadow under the moonlight. Lyra's breathing quickened. 3 of them. They never hunt in threes, unless... She trailed off, her expression tightening. In fear? Unless what? Ethan asked, keeping his rifle aimed. Her voice was barely audible. Unless they've chosen a keeper. A keeper. The one they take alive, she said, shivering. To feed from again and again. Ethan didn't need to ask who they had in mind. He stepped between her and the shadows, planting himself firmly in the FIRELIGHT. One of the creatures tilted its head, the hum shifting into something almost like a voice, a low whispering tone that made his skin crawl. He didn't understand the words, but the meaning was clear. They were claiming her. Ethan fired a warning shot into the ground near the closest shadow. The sound cracked across the plains, echoing off the crystal plants. For a moment, the creatures stilled, their glowing eyes narrowing. Then they began to move, slow, deliberate steps forward, unbothered by his threat. Lyra coughed weakly. They'll come at you from all sides. Can't shoot them all. Watch me, Ethan muttered. Adjusting his stance, the nearest one lunged, crossing the firelight in an instant. Ethan fired, the shot passing through its body as if it were made of smoke. But the creature recoiled slightly. the hum breaking for just a heartbeat. "They can be hurt," he said under his breath. The others began to close in. Lyra's voice rose in panic. "Ethan, if they touch me, it's over." He took a step back toward her, never lowering his rifle. "Then they won't touch you." The largest shadow crouched low, its clawed hands brushing the ground. The firelight flickered violently, and Ethan realized the flames were being pulled toward the creatures drawn into them, just as Lyra had said they would draw out her light. He risked a glance at her. The glow in her veins was pulsing faster now, as if responding to the creature's presence. She met his eyes, her fear plain. "When they come, don't let them take me. Not alive." He shook his head sharply. Not happening. The hum rose to a deafening pitch, and then, as if on some silent command, all three shadows surged forward at once. Ethan fired again and again, the blasts lighting the camp in flashes of orange. One shadow dissipated into the air, reforming just beyond the firelight. Another darted around him, too fast to track. The third came straight for Lyra. Ethan spun, tackling it before it reached her, and the two of them crashed into the ground, rolling dangerously close to the edge of the firelight. The shadow's touch burned cold, sending a jolt of numbness up his arm. He roared and shoved it back, scrambling to his feet. When he looked toward Lyra, her eyes were wide with horror, not at the creatures, but at him. "They've marked you," she whispered. He didn't know what that meant yet, but the look in her eyes told him it was only going to get worse, and the night was far from over. The predator's arrival, the fire was struggling to stay alive. Each gust of cold wind seemed to pull its flames toward the shadows, thinning them until they were just weak tongues of light. Ethan could feel the difference. The darkness wasn't just around them anymore, it was pressing in, alive, hungry. Lyra lay propped against his supply bag, her golden eyes unfocused, her glowing veins pulsing faster than before. "Ethan," her voice cracked. "They'll come harder now. You shouldn't be here when they do." "Not leaving you," he said sharply, scanning the tree line. The hum was back louder. Faster, now joined by a second tone, higher pitch, like the sound of metal wires tightening. Ethan gritted his teeth. This wasn't random noise. This was communication. They were planning. He shifted his stance, rifle up, every nerve screaming at him to move. Then he saw them. The first one appeared directly across from him, stepping into the firelight without fear. Its form shifted constantly, sometimes a humanoid silhouette, sometimes something hunched and insect-like, its glowing slits for eyes. Locked on Ethan, unblinking. The second emerged from the left, its limbs longer than they should be, fingertips brushing the ground like it was tasting the dirt. The third was the worst. It came low, moving on all fours with a speed that made Ethan's stomach clench. Its glow wasn't just in its eyes. Thin cracks of light ran across its body, the same way Lyra's skin glowed. Ethan realized with a sick twist that it had fed before. The hum swelled, shaking the air. The sound vibrated through his chest, like a drumbeat. Then the creatures began to move, circling, forcing him to turn again and again to track them. Lyra tried to warn him, but her voice broke into a cough. One of them lunged. Ethan fired, the muzzle flash cutting the dark for a split second. The shot punched through the creature's chest, scattering its shadow-like form. But it reformed instantly, closing the gap with terrifying speed. He stepped back, keeping himself between them and Lyra. His boots crunched against the crystal ground. "Come on," he muttered. "Pick someone who'll fight back." The second one darted in from the left, claws slashing. Ethan twisted aside, firing point blank. The force scattered it into black wisps that melted into the air, but not for long. It was back within seconds. Glowing eyes locked on him like nothing had happened. The third one, the one with the glowing cracks, stayed just outside the firelight. It crouched low, almost like it was waiting for something. Ethan caught its movement out of the corner of his eye and aimed, but Lyra's voice cut through the chaos. "Don't? Why not?" he demanded. "It's not after you," she whispered. "It's waiting for me to weaken." Her words hit him harder than the fight. She was right. He couldn't kill them by force alone. This wasn't about winning. It was about keeping them away from her until the night ended. One of the shadows darted in again, claws swiping so close he felt the air burn cold against his cheek. Ethan slammed the rifle's butt into its head, the contact making a sickening metallic crack before it faded back into darkness. He spun to check Lyra and froze. The third predator was inside the camp now, crouched low, no more than 2 meters from her. Its eyes glowed brighter, its hum vibrating in time with the light inside her veins. No. Ethan sprinted, closing the gap in 3 strides. The predator straightened and lashed out, but Ethan barreled into it with all his weight, knocking them both out of the firelight. The moment they hit the cold ground, the air changed. It was heavier here, thicker, the hum drilling straight into his skull. The creature's claws raked across his side, not tearing skin, but leaving a freezing burn behind. Ethan grunted, forcing the rifle's muzzle under the creature's jaw and firing. The blast tore through its head, and for a moment, it collapsed into black smoke. But even as he scrambled to his feet, it was reforming. Stretching upward, like spilled ink sucked back into shape. From behind him, Lyra's weak cry cut through the hum. Ethan back in the light. He turned, sprinting toward the camp. The predator followed, faster than should have been possible. Just as its clawed hand reached for him, Ethan dove back across the fire's edge, rolling to a stop beside Lyra. The creature stopped dead at the firelight's boundary. Tilting its head, the other 2 stepped closer now, all 3 forming a wide arc around the camp. They weren't rushing in anymore. They were waiting. "They're patient," Lyra said weakly. "They'll wait until you're tired, or until the fire dies." Ethan's mind raced. "Then we keep it burning." Her eyes fluttered. "Ethan, you can't fight all night. Watch." "Me," he said, feeding more of the crystal wood into the flames. But he knew she was right. The wood wouldn't last forever. Neither would his strength. And outside the ring of firelight, 3 sets of glowing eyes watched him with the hunger of predators who knew the night was theirs. The hum grew deeper, slower again, as if they were settling in for the long game. The moon was still high. Dawn felt a lifetime away. The midnight rescue the fire hissed as another branch caught flame, sending a brief wave of warmth over Ethan's chilled skin. He kept his eyes locked on the shadows beyond the light, his rifle ready, his muscles aching from the constant tension. The 3 predators still circled, patient and deliberate. Every so often, one of them would lean forward, testing the edge of the firelight, only to pull back when the flames licked toward it. The hum in the air had shifted again, now a steady pulse that seemed designed to wear him down behind him. Lyra's breathing had grown shallow, her head resting against the supply bag. The glow in her veins was fading in some places, flickering weakly, like a lantern about to go out. "Ethan." Her voice was so soft he almost didn't hear it. "I'm here," he said, without looking back. "They know I'm slipping." She whispered. "That's why they're not rushing. They'll wait until I can't fight, and you're too tired to stop them." He gritted his teeth. "Then we make sure I'm not too tired." She gave a weak, humorless laugh. "You can't win a night against them." Ethan finally looked back at her. "Then I'll make sure the night doesn't win either." Before she could respond, the hum faltered. The predators froze in place, their glowing eyes shifting toward the same point in the sky. Ethan followed their gaze and saw it. A faint light streaking down from the heavens, cutting across the dark sky like a falling star. It wasn't natural. The glow was steady, mechanical, with a faint red blink at its tail. His pulse jumped. A ship. Rescue, he breathed. Lyra's eyes widened, but her expression was far from relieved. Not necessarily. The predators' heads tilted in unison, the hum rising to a pitch that made his ears ring. They began to back away from the firelight, melting into the crystal forest, their shapes dissolving into the shadows. Ethan's grip tightened on his rifle. Why are they leaving? There? Not leaving, Lyra said, shivering. They're hiding, waiting. The light in the sky grew larger, and soon he could hear the faint thrum of engines. A sleek, narrow craft descended toward the plains, its landing lights sweeping across the terrain. Dust kicked up in swirling clouds as the ship came down. Few hundred meters from their camp, Ethan stood, rifle at the ready. If that's a rescue team, we're saved. Lyra caught his wrist with surprising strength, or its bait. The ship's side hatch opened with a hiss, and a beam of white light cut across the ground toward them. A figure stepped in too. It humanoid, wearing a bulky environmental suit with a visor that reflected the moonlight. The figure raised one hand in greeting. Ethan Cross. The voice was amplified through a CUM system, echoing across the plain. Ethan's chest loosened. Slightly. Yeah, he called back. We need medevac now. The figure started toward them, boots crunching on the crystal ground. But halfway to the camp, it stopped. Slowly, the helmet turned to the side, toward the crystal trees. Ethan followed the gaze, and his stomach dropped. Two of the predators were crouched just beyond the firelight, completely still, their glowing eyes fixed on the newcomer. The figure reached for something at its belt. Ethan didn't hesitate. Stay in the light, he shouted, but the warning was too late. The predators moved as one, streaks of shadow closing the distance in seconds. The figure barely had time to raise a weapon before the first one hit, slamming them to the ground. The second ripped the weapon away and flung it into the darkness. Ethan cursed under his breath, aiming his rifle. The shots cracked through the night muzzle flashes lighting the chaos, but the predators were fast, darting in and out of sight. The third predator hadn't moved. It was standing still, watching Lyra. No you don't, Ethan growled, turning the rifle on it. The shot hit, dispersing the shape for a moment, but as soon as it reformed, it began to advance. Ignoring the firelight entirely, Lyra's voice trembled. Ethan, the fire's too weak now. They can cross. And she was right. The flames were low, struggling against the cold pull of the moonlight. He fired again, buying seconds. We have to move to the ship. Lyra shook her head. I can't run, then I'll carry you. He slung the rifle over his shoulder, scooped her into his arms, and bolted from the camp. The predators hissed, their hum rising into a shriek that made his teeth ache. The figure from the ship was struggling to stand, one leg dragging uselessly. Ethan grabbed them by the arm, hauling them up. Move. Together, they staggered toward the ship. The predators followed, streaks of shadow racing alongside them, darting in and out of the moonlight. One lunge, Ethan spun, firing from the hip, the blast forcing it back. The hatch loomed ahead, its light like a doorway to safety. The first figure stumbled inside, and Ethan leaped in after them, slamming his hand on the hatch controls. The door slid shut with a heavy clang, just as one of the predators slammed against the hull, the sound echoing through the ship like a drumbeat. For a long moment, there was only the sound of Ethan's breathing and the thrum of the engines starting up. Then Lyra whispered, "It's not over." Ethan looked down at her. "We're inside. We're safe." She shook her head weakly. "They marked you. They can follow. Anywhere." And in that moment, he knew she was right. The rescue was real, but safety was still a long way off. The dawn promised the rescue ship's engines roared, lifting them off the crystal plains. Through the narrow viewport, the alien moon's silver light stretched across the horizon, making the land below look almost peaceful. Almost, Ethan knew. Better, somewhere down there, in the shadows, the predators were still watching. Inside, the cabin lights flickered. The pilot, the same suited figure who had almost been taken, was in the cockpit, working the controls with stiff, jerky movements. Ethan didn't like it. Either the ship had taken damage, or the pilot was shaken in a way that didn't just come from fear. Liora lay strapped to a medical cot in the back, the glow in her veins weaker now, barely a faint shimmer. Her breathing was shallow, but her eyes were open, watching him. "You fought them," she murmured. "No one does that and lives." Ethan sat beside her, brushing his thumb over her hand. "You're still here. That's all that matters." Her lips curved into a tired smile. "Not for long if they keep the mark on you." He frowned. "What exactly is this mark?" "You've said it twice now." She hesitated, then turned her palm upward. In the center was a faint, darkened line. Not a scar, not a bruise, but something that seemed to shift when the light hit it. When they touch you, they leave a piece of themselves inside. A link. They can find you across worlds. Ethan flexed his fingers. He didn't see anything on his skin, but the cold burn on his side where the predator's claw had grazed. Him pulsed faintly in time with his heartbeat. "Then we'll cut it out." Liora shook her head. "It's not in your body. It's in you." Before he could ask more, a loud thud reverberated through the ship, making the hull tremble. Ethan was on his feet instantly. "What was that?" The pilot's voice came over the comm. "We've got something on the hull. It's not letting go." Lyra's eyes widened. "They followed us." Another thud, this one above them, closer to the cockpit. The lights flickered again, and for a moment, the hum, that awful low vibration, filled the cabin. Ethan felt it in his teeth. He grabbed his rifle, moving toward the hatch that led to the forward section. "Stay here," he told Liora. She gave a bitter laugh, as if I could do anything else. The corridor to the cockpit was dim, the flickering lights casting stuttering shadows on the walls. The pilot was still at the controls, hands tight on the sticks. "They're trying to slow us down," the voice inside the suit said. "Can you get us into orbit?" Ethan asked. "Not unless you get them off my ship." Ethan glanced toward the side viewport. At first, he saw only the stars, then movement. One of the predators was clinging to the hull, its form flattened against the metal like a shadow, painted there. The glowing slits of its eyes turned toward him, and the hum pulsed harder, sharper. He didn't think. He pulled the emergency lever on the side hatch. The airlock hissed, and cold wind rushed in as the outer panel slid open. The predator moved instantly, claws scraping over the hull as it tried to reach inside. Ethan fired point blank, the muzzle flash lighting its warped form. It recoiled, reforming an instant later, but the impact loosened its grip. With one final shove from his boot, Ethan sent it tumbling into the dark. Spinning away into the sky, the hatch sealed again, and the hum cut off like a knife. The silence was so sudden it rang in his ears. He made his way back to the medical cot. Lyra's eyes searched his face. "You drove it off." "For now," he said. She studied him for a long moment. "They'll come again. Maybe not tonight. Maybe not this moon. But they will." Ethan sat down, leaning forward until his forehead nearly touched hers. "Then I'll be ready." Her eyes softened. "Why? You could leave me. Cut the mark. Be free of all this." He didn't even pause. "Because you asked me not to leave? You until sunrise. And I don't break my word." Something in her expression shifted. The teasing spark she'd had when they first met wasn't there. But something warmer had taken its place. She squeezed his hand. "Then promise me. You'll see another sunrise with me, and another after that." "I promise," he said. Through the viewport, the horizon was brightening. The alien sun's first rays spilled over the plains far below, scattering the last traces of moonlight. Lyra's glow steadied, faint still, but no longer flickering. She closed her eyes, leaning into his hand. "The night is over." "Yeah," Ethan murmured, watching the sun climb higher. "But next time, they'll find out dawn's not the only thing worth fearing." And as the rescue ship broke through the atmosphere, leaving the silver-lit plains behind, Ethan knew one thing for certain: no matter where they ran, the predators would follow. But so would he, because some promises don't end at sunrise.